guys, so in today's video I'm going to show you how you can do some basic skin tone. Normally if I was doing realistic skin tone I'd be using a lot more pencils than this, but I just wanted to simplify it down and see if I can do two different skin tones, a light and a dark, with just 3 pencils each. So for the light skin I'm going to show you with Polychromos pencils because there's less of a skin tone specific range in the Polychromos, so it can be a bit harder, where Prismacolor has a lot of different skin tone range. So Polychromos Light Flesh is what I'll use for the base tone. Vista is what I'll use for the shadows, and then for the highlights and sort of blending all the colours together I'll use Ivory. So it will obviously give more of a cartoony effect as only using 3 colours. You'll be able to see, like, if you normally you'd be using a lot more colours, and you can still add colours in over top of this, but I just want to make it a bit easier for you guys, somewhere to start off while you're learning. So what I'm doing is actually putting in the shadows, and excuse me if you hear me sniffing, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. But I'm putting in the shadows, and first of all they look pretty drastic, like, oh, I've done this wrong, but by the end of it they'll be hardly noticeable, they'll just all sort of blend in. So what I'm doing is just putting the shadows everywhere that there would be a shadow on the face. There we go, just zoomed in a bit more. Now, if you have trouble with where you should be putting shadows, I actually find the best thing to do is have a reference photo, go on Google and just sort of look up where, just Google face, or face with shadows, or profile picture, or just something like that, and see where the shadows are, and you'll have a lot easier time. I'm just guessing on this where I'd put them. Sometimes it doesn't matter how good your shading is either, it'll just sometimes it's very hard for artists to do a line drawing of a face, because obviously in real life you don't have big black lines all over your face outlining things, so it can be difficult for them to see where to have put lines and to make it the easiest for you to colour in. Hopefully this is all making sense. But this is my basic technique of doing colours, and yeah, I just thought I would do some experiments yesterday of what colours work best and what I would most tend to grab when it comes to skin tone colours, and see if I can really just narrow it down to just a few different coloured pencils. So if you're looking at buying Polychromos pencils and you want to do some skin colours, these are the ones that I would recommend. So yeah, I'm just going in and putting the shadows in. Polychromos pencils are really good for layering there. I mean, the artist quality. I've done one portrait picture with them, and I actually used a mixture of both these and Prismacolor. I did a portrait of my grandmother for my dad, and I was a complete newbie when I did that. I just looked at the picture and copied the colours I saw, so I mean, if I can do it, you can too. It's a bit harder to just guess though. Like I said, I'm not using a reference photo for this, so hopefully it still turns out how I plan. So normally you would have some lightness on your forehead, your nose, your chin and your cheeks. It's sort of like, I don't tend to do this when I wear makeup, but obviously there's the huge trend of highlighting and contouring, and that's basically the main theory when you're colouring in skin with coloured pencil as well. You want to leave the lightest parts where you would do that doing your makeup. So now I'm just going in with the light flesh colour, and I'm going over all of that dark stuff I've just done and blending into the light areas. But I'm still going right over the dark as well. It just adds another layer to the colour. Hopefully I can make this video without it being far too long for you guys to sit through so you don't get bored. And you'll definitely go through ugly stages. But like I said, these pencils are really good for layering, so you can just keep going until you're happy with it. Also, the other thing when colouring in skin tones, sometimes it can look not right until you've done the hair and the clothes or the eyes and the makeup around it. Just going in with a wee bit more of that Vista colour. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm good at pronouncing the colours of pencils wrong. I'm sure I'll get told if I have. Now if you find that this pink is too pinky peachy coloured for you, you just go a bit lighter, but I don't mind the pink peachy tone. Now the other thing is when you're actually colouring in eyes and teeth, to make them look a wee bit more realistic, you want to use the lightest grey colour you have. So I like to use, I think, light warm grey. But like I said, if you're using a reference photo, you want to copy what colours you see in the reference photo. Just for the purpose of this video and showing you how the basics, I would use light grey, because I haven't got a reference photo and we're just doing it more of a cartoony style, or a kid's picture book style probably would be the best way to describe it. So I'm going to go back in with some more shadows. You could also use greys to do your shadow. Probably want to stay away from blacks and shadows on faces, because it can make it look a bit muddy. But if you're doing maybe a night picture, you might want to use some blacks and blues. And right, now onto the ivory, which sometimes I get mixed up calling it cream, so if you hear me say cream, I mean ivory. And we're just going to go over the rest of the picture. We might still leave some of the highlight white, but most of it's going to be cream. And you can see the face really start to come together, and those shadows don't look anywhere near as horrible as they do when you first put them in. But I like to put them down first, because I find if you go with a lighter colour and then you go in the darker colour, if you haven't actually got a perfectly even coverage of the light, you'll find the dark really grabs on to the bare paper and you'll be left with lines you can't blend out later. So this way you're going to put the darks in nice and smooth and the lighter colours will beautifully blend over top of it. Now I have to say I haven't really perfected the dark skin, but I will do my best on the next wee girl's picture. So once you've got a nice base tone, you can go back in with shadows. If you're looking at it and you think, oh, that just doesn't look right, go onto Google and look at some faces in the Google images and see what you're doing wrong. And sometimes it's something quite obvious you've done wrong, and sometimes there's just no fixing it and it's more the artist's drawing. Like, these faces are reasonably good to colour. It's the Forget Me Not Fairies Deluxe Colouring Book. I actually hate this colouring book. There's far too much detail in it, and it would take, I don't think I've even finished a page in it. It just takes such a long time. And then you can just keep going over, blending them out. Have a bit more of a shadow on this nose. See how they've put that line in there? That's what I've sort of gone off for the shadow, just to sort of, I think they've put it there as a hint, as that's where the more shaded side is. And then obviously there's a line here on this girl's face as well, so I'm going to sort of have it so the light sources here and here, so their faces are sort of shading one another, is my theory behind it. Right, I'm just going to quickly show you how I would do the eyes and teeth, because it really brings the face together, and I will just sort of fast forward all of that just so you can see me doing it. But yeah, it'll just show you how much more realistic it makes the picture look. As you can see, I've made a horrible mistake putting that black pen in there. It just sort of bubbled out a bit way more than what I wanted it to. But oh well, it was looking good until then. So as you could see, the greys in the eyes, it just made it look a lot more realistic. And the other thing you can do is put a wee bit of blush in. This colour is Medium Flesh, and you just want to really lightly sort of scribble it over the cheek area. The other thing is, as these are children, I haven't really put makeup on them, but if you were doing an adult, you would, well, you could obviously put lipstick or eyeshadow. Okay, so we'll go on to the darker skin type now. I haven't got this perfected, but I did a few practices and it turned out pretty good. So what I think for this one is Walnut Brown, and Bista is the main colour. Now, when I've done tests, I was using the Ivory, which works fine, but I think it's a wee bit too yellowy. So I'm going to try just plain white for the highlight on the dark skin, and we'll see how that turns out. So I'm just going to use the same process of putting the shadows in first, and for this I'm going to put a wee bit of shadow behind her nose, but I'm actually, what I said before about the highlights coming in from this side and this side, I think I'm going to still put the shading on that side and I'll be putting a bit of shading on there too, because often there's multiple light sources. So let's just see how we go. These girls' eyebrows are so high up, I find it really difficult, and then pretty non-existent. Yeah, if you want a lighter or a darker version of either of these, you really just want to use a lighter hand if you like the colour tones, and then maybe not go out quite as far with the shadows, just make them a wee bit smaller. And if you were wanting it lighter, more of a highlight. The other thing is my pencils are really nice and sharp. If you're using blunt pencils, you'll find it a lot harder to blend. Onto the Vista colour. Yeah, like I've said throughout this video, there's so many different coloured skin tones, so you could actually use any colour you'd like, as long as you've got the values right, the darks, lights and mediums in the right place. It'll look like skin. But yeah, some people find it hard to know where to even begin, so this is a good starting point, and then you can go from here. Getting a bit braver, picking different colours. You can see I haven't really left any white, because if my blending colour is going to be white, it's not going to be putting any more pigment into the paper, which won't look right. So I've just gone over very lightly. And let's see how we go with this white. But there's my basic way of colouring skin. You want to pick a highlight, a base colour and a shadow colour. It would be the easiest way to explain it. So I hope you've enjoyed watching my video today. Leave a comment down below if you found this helpful. I'm just going to finish these pictures off. I'll probably do the hair and eyes obviously, and I'll just show you a wee time lapse of the rest of it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!